Now, going into this summer, Ruben Amorim was in need of more players than a newly promoted team. He was coming into a new league to implement a three at the back system that has rarely proven to be successful, with Conte being the only one to win the league in 16-17 and Tuchel being the only one to win the Champions League in 2020-2021. And with United's rich history of 4-4-2 and 4-2-3-1 systems, Amorim was in dire need of specialist wingbacks, specialist number 10s, and powerful, lung-busting central midfielders to make everything click. So, in typical United fashion, we solved only one of those three issues by getting two Premier League proven 10s in Cunha and Mbeumo, and we decided to just make it work with our current fullbacks playing as wingbacks. And while everyone would have thought to address the midfield issues that have been ignored for over 10 years, Man United actually decided to address the other issue that's been ignored for over 10 years by signing the Slovenian sensation Benjamin Šeško. So in this video, we're going to discuss why Šeško fits perfectly into Amorim's 3-4-2-1 system, what he did well against Sunderland, and end with why he's the best striker United have signed since Zlatan and why I'm very optimistic about his future. Did you know that only 17% of people watching this video are subscribed to the channel? So if you're enjoying the content, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now let's get on to the rest of the video. Now, despite Amorim being at United for almost a year now, most people don't really have a very good understanding of how he wants to build up play from the back. As we saw in the Sunderland game, he wants the central center back to push up into a midfield position so that we can create this diamond shape with our two center backs and our goalkeeper. He also wants our two 10s to drop deep into the inside half spaces on the left and right so that our opposition is forced to break their defensive shape if they want to press us high up the pitch. For example, in the Sunderland game, Noah Siddiqui had to come really deep to track Mbeumo in this space here, and Granit Xhaka had to track Mount in this area in order to execute their high press. And with their starting cam in Lafay being on Casemiro, that often meant Fernandes was the free man in this space right here, and that caused a lot of problems for Sunderland throughout that game. Now, Lammens can play this ball out to De Ligt through the middle after he draws out the press towards him from one of the front three. And I want you guys to pay attention to this diamond shape that our backline is in as we move further throughout this clip, because it gives us the flexibility of creating two passing triangles with these four players here, which means the player that's receiving the ball, De Ligt in this case, always has three players to choose from in terms of who he wants to pass to. And he doesn't really need to take the risk of trying to turn with two players pressing him from behind. Now, let's say De Ligt plays it out to Euro in this case, and that creates our second diamond, which is between Casemiro and Mbeumo, De Ligt, and Euro in this area here. But in Amorim's system, where he prefers a lot of verticality, it also creates this larger diamond with Šeško, Amad, Euro, and De Ligt. So because Amorim wants to move the ball up very quickly into the attack and progress the ball as vertically as possible, Euro can actually play the next pass into Šeško and try to progress the entire team up the pitch very quickly, right? So in this case, you'll see both our fullbacks in Dalot and Amad have also moved up very quickly, and Mount and Mbeumo are actually slightly more conservative just behind them, and Šeško has the ability now to play this out very easily into Amad directly, and that's exactly what he does as he himself progresses up the pitch to get into this area. So everything that we've seen so far shows you the various attributes that are important to Amorim with each of the players in the system. Euro as the right center back needs to be good with his progressive passing so that he can get the ball out to Šeško or get it out to Amad or play it short to Mbeumo or Casemiro. Šeško needs to be really good with his hold-up play to shield against the center backs that have stepped up to press him, and also have the ability to play out the pass to Amad, whether it's with his first touch, second touch, or the third touch. And the wingbacks in particular are quite often the most furthest forward and widest up the pitch, so they really need to have the pace to get in behind and almost play like wingers. With all that being said, if you find yourself asking why Amorim keeps substituting some of his center backs, it's because of this exact thing. He keeps wanting his left and right center back to be good on the ball and to do different things in different phases of the game. So if he wants to have De Ligt be the right center back, maybe he wants to play a bit more defensive and a bit less of the progressive passing. Whereas if he wants someone like Euro to be here, he wants a little bit more expansive passing as the right center back. So if we continue the rest of this play, you can see Amad and Mbeumo interchanging with each other, and Mbeumo playing a cross into Šeško, and Šeško hopefully putting it into the back of the net. Now, what does this tell us about the attributes that Amorim needs from his striker in this system? It's basically everything you would want from an old school number 9. He wants someone to be the focal point for long and direct balls, so someone who's good in the air and can hold up the ball. He wants someone to play balls out into the flanks for on-rushing fullbacks or wingers. And he wants someone who can run the channels through the middle to provide even more verticality in case Lommens wants to just play a long ball into the channel between the fullback and the center back for the opposition team. So Šeško, in that sense, checks all 3 boxes and actually does much more, as we'll now see from some of the clips from the Sunderland game. Now we're going to look at 3 specific aspects of his game, starting with his ability to contest duels. At 6'5", Šeško is built like an absolute beast, but most importantly, he knows how to use his body really well, which speaks to his incredible athleticism at that height. Aerial duels have as much to do with the raw jumping ability as it has to do with game intelligence, because you have to be able to read the trajectory of the ball in the air and get into the right position and also time your jump perfectly to win the ball against the defender. Now, as soon as Šeško came into this team this season, we saw Binder, Onana, and now Lommens all play tons of long balls during our first phase of build-up. In fact, in the Sunderland game, out of the 44 passes that Lommens attempted, 38 of them were long balls, which is more than 86% of all passes that he attempted. And only 11 of those 38 balls were accurate. So it's no coincidence that Šeško almost set the record for most duels lost in the Premier League this season, with 16 ground and aerial duels lost in that game. Let's take a look at some of those clips, starting with this one in the 2nd minute of the game. And Dalot has just taken a long throw here towards Šeško. As we play it along, Šeško wins the header, but Mount isn't quite available or alive to that second ball. So Mukiele actually wins it, but Mount is able to pick it up, and he gets into a position where he can play this nice ball into the channel for Šeško, and Šeško's obviously alive to it, so he runs towards it, but he ends up losing out on this ground duel, and we lose the ball. Now in this clip, you can see that Šeško is trying to make the right decision in almost every case. He wins the header like he should, he knocks it on like he should. Unfortunately, Mount isn't expecting that knock on, so he doesn't get onto it the first time. But once Mount plays that ball, Šeško makes the run that he should be making, but he loses out in a 2v1 here. So once we have the right chemistry with all of the frontline players that we have, this is going to look a lot better. Now, in this next clip from the 4th minute of the game, we have a long ball coming in from Lommens into Šeško over here, and you can see he's being marked by 2 Sunderland defenders. And despite him almost being wrestled to the ground, he somehow still wins the header and knocks it on towards Mason Mount in this area. And again, this is a very small piece of evidence, which doesn't mean much in isolation, but over 90 minutes, him being able to win these difficult headers in these difficult moments can mean a knock-on that leads to a goal. And seeing something like this early into the game, the opposition defenders know, like, we have no chance in the air against this guy for the remaining 86 minutes. In this next clip, we have Lommens kicking it long again, this time in the 13th or 14th minute. As we skip it forward a bit, the ball comes to Šeško right here, and he easily wins the duel against Mukiele, and he knocks it forward for Mbeumo to run onto. This time, Mbeumo is alive to the opportunity, and he's chasing after it. And all 3 of these Sunderland defenders are basically panicking to figure out how we can win this ball and stop Mbeumo from being straight through on goal. So Masuaku tries here to win the ball, and he heads it forward, but it's not a very clean header, so Xhaka is alive to it now, and he has to come in and head the ball towards his goalkeeper. And in that process, we have 3 players who are basically on their ass because of that one knocked header that Šeško just won. This clip right here will be played by Arne Slot and the coaching staff at Liverpool in their preparation for our upcoming fixture at Anfield. I can almost guarantee you that, because the last time Šeško played a similar knock-on header for Mbeumo to run onto, Robert Sanchez got sent off in the 4th minute of the game against us, and we ended up winning that game 2-1 against Chelsea. Now, the next aspect of Šeško's game that we're going to analyze is his hold-up play and involvement in the various build-up phases. This aspect is also equally reliant on his physicality as it is on his game intelligence, so pay close attention to everything that he's doing throughout these clips. We start with Lomans on the ball in the first 5 minutes against Sunderland. As Lomans plays this out to Euro, Sunderland initiate their press against him, so he has to figure out his next move, and that seems like a safe pass to Casemiro is on over here, so he plays it out to Casemiro, and as we pause it right there, there's this big space that Casemiro is about to pass into, so presumably there's Amad off screen here. So he rolls it to Amad, who's come pretty deep to pick up the ball because, again, Sunderland are using many players to press us in our own box. But look at how wide we have made the pitch by having Amad hugging the touchline here. So as Amad receives it, he's also getting pressed. So to beat that press, he's essentially playing it to Euro here in a second. And as he does that, Euro basically has no other option than going long because we have 6 Sunderland players just on screen and a 7th one here probably marking Bruno. So Euro kicks it long towards Šeško in this space. And right here, Šeško's in a really good position to pick up this ball. And all he has to do is knock it onto Mbeumo's path. And Mbeumo basically has no other defender to defend against him in this space other than Xhaka, who's kind of the last man, I believe. So as we play forward, Šeško attempts this martial arts roundhouse kick to put it into Mbeumo's path, but unfortunately gives it straight back to Sunderland here. Now, this clip right here is a great example of improved chemistry within the right-hand side of our team. We just saw Euro, Casemiro, Amad, and Mbeumo handle the press really well to get it to Šeško in the second phase of build-up in the middle of the pitch. And had Šeško managed to pull off this martial arts move, we would have been straight into the third phase of build-up, getting into the final third with Mbeumo having a 1v1 or a 1v2. Šeško getting into the right place at the right time is super important here. He just needs to work a little bit on his execution and will be looking like a very fluid Amorim system very soon. Now, in this next clip, we'll see a few examples of Šeško's touch, which is very, very important for a striker, as we know from our history with the likes of Lukaku and Højlund. There's a loose ball here in the first 10 minutes inside our own half. It comes to Šeško and he plays it calmly into Bruno here, and Bruno has to turn safely inwards so that he can keep possession. And as we skip it forward a bit, Bruno essentially plays it back to Lomans to avoid losing it out to Sunderland's press. Now, as Lomans receives it, he realizes he's getting pressed too, so he has to look up and play a quick long ball straight through the middle of the pitch. And this long ball comes straight to Mbeumo, who's able to take a nice first touch to cushion it into Šeško here. And Šeško receives that ball, and all he has to do is essentially take a nice touch into this space here to get it past Alderete, and he's straight through on goal with Mbeumo in support. But unfortunately, he runs straight into Alderete, and we lose out on the counterattack. And this clip is another example of us being so close to putting all the pieces together in this Amorim system. The last little execution bit from Šeško stops us from being clean through on goal, but we were able to beat the Sunderland press with relative ease and able to get the ball to the center circle also with relative ease. On another day, Šeško nutmegs Alderete, and Mbeumo and Šeško probably score a goal. Next, we have another loose ball from a Sunderland cross that Casemiro deals with, and it comes out here to Bruno, and we're still trying to get it in our possession. And Bruno toe pokes it with relative force into Šeško, and he takes a nice touch with his shoulder to get it under control and plays the deftest and softest pass you'll ever see a 6'5" striker play into Bruno's feet. And Bruno tries to run with it, but unfortunately can't get it under his control. So it's a loose ball that comes out for Šeško to control, and he plays another deft pass into Casemiro, who now gets it under his control and can play it straight into Euro in this area. And as soon as he does that, I want you guys to pay attention to how many Sunderland players are in our half. We have Xhaka, we have Masuaku, we have Siddiqui, and their front four. So we have 7 Sunderland players inside our own half, which means beating this press and Šeško's 2 involvements in that clip right there was super important for us to get the ball out free here, and we can now probably get on the counterattack with 1 or 2 balls. Now, this last clip is by far my favorite contribution from Šeško in that game, and it came in the 21st minute. So Luke Shaw on the ball here, and he's about to play it to Casemiro in the middle. Casemiro receives the ball and lays it off to Bruno, and we're going to pause it right there before Bruno plays the pass. You can see Šeško up ahead, you can see Mbeumo over here in this area. As the ball comes straight into Šeško, You can't quite see it above the scoreboard here, but Amad is still hugging the touchline on the far side. So the pass for Šeško, the easy pass, is definitely out to Mbeumo here, who then plays it out to Amad. But what Šeško does instead is takes one touch to get the ball under his control, and the second touch to play the ball straight into Amad's feet right here. And this could not be timed more perfectly to be straight into Amad's stride, because as you can see it here, he gets it into control with his first touch. And with his second touch, he's straight away onto the counterattack. And Sunderland are basically in a 5v5 because we have our front three here, we have our right wing back, and we have our left wing back, who's Dalot, touching the left touchline as well. So Sunderland are basically in big trouble just because Šeško is able to control the ball very quickly and play the ball out to Amad right in his stride. And this is something that Rasmus Højlund really struggled with. So many attacks would just basically die at his feet because he could either not get the ball under control, or he'd be too busy wrestling with the central defender, or he'd mistime his pass or overhit his pass into the winger. Now, the final aspect of Šeško's game that we'll analyze is his aerial threat in both boxes. Here we have Mukiele getting ready for the long throw, which we struggled with massively in the Brentford game. As Mukiele throws this ball in, United know that winning the first ball is extremely important, and Šeško here gets ready at the front post and jumps to win this ball with ease and relieves all the pressure off the United defense. This exact thing right here was done by Erling Haaland against us in the game that we lost 3-0 at the Etihad. Haaland had 8 defensive contributions in that game, and 4 of them were just headed clearances in his own box. So in this sense, we very much already have our own Haaland. Now we go to another clip in the first 15 minutes, and Xhaka has played a cross into the box for Sunderland. As it comes in, Shaw is able to win the first header, and Casemiro is actually running in to win the second header here. And look at what Šeško does. He makes this tiny movement from here to here to box out Hume, who's Sunderland's right back, so that Casemiro can have an uncontested header in this space and basically win the ball back for United. Now, again, this seems like a minor contribution that you would most certainly just miss when you were watching the game live, but things like this make a huge difference to United when we're defending against set pieces, and let's be honest, in the last 4 or 5 years, we have had a terrible record at defending set pieces. Next, we see Mbeumo on the ball in the right wing here, and for the first time in the first 30 minutes of that game, he's actually getting ready to put an early cross into the box. And I want you guys to pay close attention to Šeško's movement here because it's super subtle but impactful. As the cross comes in, Šeško has moved himself in between Xhaka and Hume at right back here. And if Mbeumo's cross is bent in and weighted perfectly, Šeško basically has a free header right here a few feet away from goal. And this is, most certainly going to be a goal if he can get out the end of this. But unfortunately, Mbeumo's cross is a little bit overhit and it goes straight into Dalot, who obviously miscontrols it, and that's another story. But if Mbeumo can work on that right-footed early cross or cut back and put in an early cross with his left foot, we can actually start seeing 5 to 10 goals from just headers from Šeško this season. Now, just a few minutes after that Mbeumo right-footed cross that we just saw, we have another opportunity on the wing with Mbeumo and Bruno. And these guys work it really neatly to get it behind Adingra and find Bruno in this space over here. And as Bruno receives it, I want you guys again to pay attention to where Šeško is. He's right above here, right above my head. And essentially he's alone with Mukiele in this space. And if he makes this run from essentially, in to out into this space, an early cross can find him and he can cause a lot of trouble for the goalkeeper. But unfortunately, instead of crossing it right there, and you can see Šeško's kind of already on the move, Bruno takes a touch and tries to play the cross that goes straight into the defender, and an opportunity is wasted here. I really hope that Amorim is showing these exact clips to United team in training, because they've got to do better with getting these early crosses into the box. Right now, we can only imagine what Šeško can do with his movement in the box by looking at clips like these. When we actually start putting in the crosses, we'll see evidence of a great modern striker that does the basics well and also has incredible athleticism and mobility for someone at 6'5". Does that description remind you of anybody else? Because the only correct answer here is Erling Haaland. If you want to go further back, maybe it's Zlatan Ibrahimović. That is the ceiling that Šeško could reach if he adapts to this Amorim system really well, and if the other players in the system start playing to his strengths. Let's not forget that this exact system made that Swedish fraud who plays for Arsenal look like a £100 million player at Sporting Lisbon. So why can't an actual quality striker like Benjamin Šeško look like Erling Haaland or Zlatan Ibrahimović with the right ingredients? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.